Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you're having a great day today. It's Sunday again. It's story time. Hopefully, you guys are starting to, kind of pull yourself out of that rut of 2020 and picking up a book. I absolutely love to read. I'm hoping that this channel will help inspire you to start reading again, or at least if you already are a reader, give you a new author to check out. So I'll quit rambling. We'll get into it. So today I am bringing to you Katy Baxter. And this one, I love this series. It's the Arch Through Time series. And this is Dreams of a Highlander. Now, I have read this book twice. Actually, this series twice. But it's a time-traveling series, and it is based in 15th century, 16th century, 16th century. And it all has to do with Highlanders, and it has to do with the Fae, and then with mortal women of today's society, I should say. So this book here, Dreams of a Highlander. Now this one is about Quinn. Now Quinn is a laird's brother, and he is tormented and has a whole bunch of heartache and issues because his oldest brother Duncan was killed by one of their arch nemesis. And in the Highlands, that clan rivalry is a huge thing, always has been. But his one brother Robert, that was second in line, that was the heir to Marcus that was killed, is now laird, which means Quinn is heir. So of course he hates having all this responsibility put on him because it's not the way it was supposed to be. Well, he's out doing a scouting, making sure, because all these pop-up fires and things are happening on their clan borders. And so he's out trying to scout to see if he can find out who it is. Well, on the other side of this, Irene McCaskill is her name. She is a fae. They don't know that she is a fae yet, but she just looks like an elderly old woman, and she ends up makes the whole series, I think, is what drags you in, is because what Irene has up her sleeve. Now, of course, there's always the myth that you never, make a deal with a fae. You never get involved with a fae because they're tricksters, and, you never want to owe anything to the fae. Well, Irene likes balance. She likes balance in the Highlands. So if someone goes down the wrong path or needs advice or something like that, she always wants to make sure that there's balance. Now, she ends up getting involved and meeting with a woman in the 21st century. Now, she is a vet. Now, Darcy is her name, and she ends up going to Scotland, to Edinburgh, to do a veteran conference. Now, all she does is work. She's an independent 21st century woman, doesn't have family. She doesn't have a husband. She doesn't have children. She is all focused on her career. And so her best friend, which is like the temporary secretary at the vet's office, is always begging her to take time for herself, but she never does. So since she's in this conference in Edinburgh, she tells her, hey, while you're there, take a few days of vacation, check it out, see the sights. Well, she decides she's going to do this, but right before, she ends up meeting Irene at this conference and tells her that her path can change and that she just has to be brave enough to do it. Of course, she kind of gets this weird, creepy vibe off this old lady, but she just kind of blows it away, and Irene gives her this book, this guidebook of where she can go and all the sights that she should see in her bonny homeland. So, she's like, hey, why not? I'm decided to stay, take a few days to myself, my first vacation in forever, I'll do this. So she takes off. And her being a vet, she's very compassionate. And all of a sudden, as she's driving these back roads, when she rented this car, she hits a little deer. And she freaks out. She jumps out. She grabs her vet bag as the deer bounds off into the woods, worried that it's afraid, it's frightened, it's injured, it's hurt, and she's chasing after it. Well, as she's coming, trying to not spook this deer, when she finally sees it, it's on the other side of this arch, and this deer is just watching her. like intently, not moving, just watching her. So she's trying to be calm and trying to get it to be calm. So she goes through and she walks under this archway. As soon as she starts getting closer to the archway where she's walking through, that deer bolts. And when she gets to the other side, she's stumbling around trying to find it. She can't find it. She goes, well, just go back to my car. Guess it's okay. But she can't find her car. She can't find a road. She has her cell phone with her. She even pulls it out to find out if she has a signal. Nothing. She's like, what in the world? I do not have that bad of directions. I should be going straight through here to be able to find my way back to the roadway. So she's stumbling around, worried that she's lost. It's getting late, and she can't find her car. She can't find a road. She can't even see street lights or town lights or anything. And as she's stumbling around, she sees these 3 guys at a campsite. And they're all wearing like these authentic, Highland gear. And she's like, maybe they're from a reenactment or something. So she stumbles in there going, excuse me, I'm sorry, don't mean to interrupt. I think you guys are camping out. I just want to know if you guys had a cell phone that I could use since mine isn't working here. And of course, these 3 Highlanders stand up and, they're looking at her like, 1, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. And 2, what are you doing stumbling into our camp, And so, of course, Quinn, remember Quinn? He is hiding up, watching these brigades that have been terrorizing his town, or the borders at least, and burning crofts and vandalizing and killing things. So he's watching this woman, come in to this camp, completely unaware of what she's walking into. And so, of course, these, Highlanders are like, we don't know what you're talking about, and we don't understand half the words are coming out of your mouth. And she goes, what do you mean half the word? You don't know what police is or cell phone? And, of course, they have no idea. She goes, you guys can really stop the reenactment thing. And, I don't care. She goes, I just need to get back to my car. Which, of course, they still don't know what she's talking about. Well, one of them says these lewd things to her, and his other buddy sitting next to him says the same. And of course, the big one that's standing up in front of her says, hey, can't do things like that. We have to take her back to Sir John. Of course, now she's starting to get the eerie, tingles in the back of the hairs of her raising on the neck, that type of thing, knowing that something isn't what it seems. And these guys are not the people or tourists that she thought they would be. She's starting to get where she goes, I'm sorry, starting to back away. And the guys, nope, you ain't going nowhere, lassie. Tackled her, holds her and grabs her. Of course, she's trying to fight him off. He grabs her vet bag that she has. Remember, she's still carrying that, and throws it off. She starts yelling at him because, there's vials in there and there's precious, things in there. And he basically, tells her, you ain't going nowhere. You're coming with us. And the whole time they're thinking that this is, the clan that they've been stirring up crap with. They think it's one of theirs, this Quinn McFarland's clan. It's got to be a McFarland lady, And of course, Quinn's watching all this, and he can't stand by and let something happen to this woman. So he goes back and runs to his horse and grabs a bow, an arrow, and they decided that they're going to get out of there before, any of the McFarlands find them and grab her. And so as they're pulling her along, she hurries up and grabs her a vet bag and is holding it to herself. And she, the whole time she's like, you think I'm weak? You think I'm a docile woman? Huh? Wait. She goes around and she swings that bag and knocks one of them completely out. The other one, she knocks him right in the groin. And that's when Quinn stops and shoots, and the arrow stabs him right in the shoulder. And the one big guy that was talking to her the whole time goes to try and grab her, and the whole time she jabs a needle and shoves it in his neck and squeezes it, and he goes out like that. And she sees Quinn thinking he's another one of those bad guys and just hauls ass out of there. Nope, I ain't sticking around. I'm done. She hauls ass as fast as she could. He's like, oh my God. He's trying to help her. So he jumps on his horse and takes off after her, trying to save her. Well, when he finally gets to her and she's just, fighting up, and he's like, I'm not here to harm you. I'm here to help you. And so when she realizes that he's not one of those brigades, and he's not actually there to hurt her, then, he's talking to her, and he asks her, he goes, what did you do to that one guy? And she goes, oh, I just gave him some tranquilizer. Of course, he doesn't know what she's talking about, because at this point, she has no idea that with her walking through that archway, that she just went back 500 years in the past. And so she doesn't understand why no one's talking to her or understanding her. But yet, this guy has traditional garb, and they don't understand, common phrases that we know today, like police and roads and, anything, cell phones. So she gets this eerie feeling, and she goes, don't think I'm crazy, but what year is it? And he goes, it's our year of our Lord, 1505. And she about has a heart attack. I mean, yeah, who wouldn't, right? And she can't believe it. And of course, he can't understand why she's dressed like that. She's wearing blue jeans and t-shirt, Why are you garbed as such, So, of course, he gets her back to his clan. And, she, is afraid that if anybody knew where she was from, they would think of her as a witch or whatever. She's trying to explain to him that she's a vet. I've never heard of a vet or a veterinarian. And she explains to him that she's a healer of animals. And so, he brings her in. And, of course, Quinn is attracted to her immediately. But, he doesn't have time for that. He's still into a lot of despair because of his brother and everything that their family have dealt with. So she tries to just, blend into their life. She doesn't like things always constantly given to her, and her and Quinn are fighting and arguing all the time. And because he doesn't know how to deal with her, and yet he really likes her, but he's trying to, nope, I can't, I can't like her. I cannot like her like that. I'm just her protector. I'm here to take care of her. And so she keeps trying to steal away to try and find her way back, to see if, if she goes back through that arch, that when she realizes that's how she got here, that must be, that she can get back to her own time. But of course she has no idea where she's going. And of course Quinn's had to go back and save her a few times. And so she gets going and he gets back. And so he gets angry and they have this big ass fight, and he leaves to go do his border patrol, which he'd be gone for almost a week. And so she becomes friends with like the housekeeper and this one lady that actually does the garments and creates their wardrobes and stuff like that. She's very, very good. And so she becomes really close with them. And so since she has her own little shop, she asks her, she's like, well, is there any way that I can help? Because she really wants to do something. She's so used to working, because that's what she did in the 21st century. She was hardcore working all the time, late hours. And so she decides to, her friend's like, hey, use the back of the shop and you can do your vet thing. And so she's so ecstatic that her friend would let her do this, but yet nobody showed up. And she's worried that this is a really bad idea. Well, Quinn shows back up and realizes that this is what she's done. She set up shop. And no one, of course, has came to see her at this point yet. And so he goes there going, why would you do this? I told you I'd provide for you. And she's like, I don't care. I have to do something, I can't just sit there. And they have this big argument again. And so, of course, they just fight, and then he storms off. So as he's leaving, he realizes that he sees one of his, tenants walking around, and his dog is limping. And so he tells him, hey, go see Darcy. Darcy is a healer of animals, and don't tell her I sent you, but she'll take care of him for you. And hey, spread the word. He wanted to be able to do something to help her when he realizes that he overreacted in their fight. And so sure enough, Darcy gets busy. She is birthing animals and helping and doing all this stuff, but the whole time, she still has fought with Quinn. Well, they're still having to deal with this rival clan that keeps coming in and burning and threatening people. And so they have to figure out, they have to have more proof, before they go forward. And so Darcy is, staying busy and helping, and she still doesn't let anybody see her bag and what's in her bag as she's healing these animals, because she has, 21st century equipment, 21st century fluids and, medicine. So it just kept raining and raining and raining for days. And all of a sudden, one area of the pasture got flooded. So this little boy that she had met, that was a tenant's son, comes running up to her, asking her for help that Quinn sent for her. So she takes off. She goes, show me where we're going. And she finds out that this pastor's like almost completely overflown with water. And there is this little patch of higher ground where the sheep are trapped. So, he's having to cross this raging now river that has come up, and she is worried that something's going to happen. He has a rope around his waist, and there's these guys on the other side. They're there for other villagers that are trying to help. And of course, he says, I have to cross the stream. I have to. And she's like, please be careful. And he goes, I will. He goes, thank you for coming. So he crosses the stream, and he goes under a few times and, tells him, hey, I'm okay, fingers up. So he finally gets over, and he ties this rope off onto the street. And the other side of the sheep is a drop-off cliff. So there's nowhere for these sheep to go. They're either going to drown in this fast-moving now river that has created from all the rain, or they're going to fall off this cliff. So this is the only option for them to save these sheep for old Mac, one of his villagers. So these guys that were there, the other villagers, they had rope around their neck and they were around their waist, and they were able to, create these little loops around the rope that is tied from one place to the other, so that way they can go across easily. And they made like this human chain and grab the sheep and pass it along. And she was checking them as they came and brought them to drier land. And once they realized that they were fine, then she would let them go and they'd off and run. There's one sheep, and he was trying to get Darcy's attention. The last sheep he was bringing over, there was something wrong with this one. And she's like, okay, bring it over. I'll help you. So she gets the sheet over, and that's when they realize that he has a branch had broke off right through its neck. And she doesn't take it out. She looks at it and she goes, we need to get into his hut. So she kicks everybody out except Quinn and says, you were going to help me. So Quinn's like, okay. She washes up. He washes up, and she decides, she opens up her bag. She can't hold it back. She has to be able to do this. She doesn't want anybody else seeing it, but she trusts Quinn. She pulls out all these equipment, which Quinn doesn't understand anything she's doing. She says, you need to do exactly as I say when I say it. And so he does. And she's able to remove this branch from its neck, sew up the muscle, sew up everything, and then inject it with antibiotics and also revive it, because she had gave it a tranquilizer to knock it out. Not much, but just enough to put it to sleep so she could do this without it moving. And so he's the whole time is helping her clean and do all of this. And then before she lets anybody comes back in, she hurries up and washes all her utensils, puts it back in her bag and closes it, and then calls Mac in. And so, of course, Quinn knows that there's something else about her. He doesn't know what, but there's something else about her. And so as the time goes on, they end up falling for each other, and they end up falling in love. Well, they're still having to deal with this rival clan that is trying to do all this, horrible things to their tenants. Come to find out, John, the guy that killed the oldest, Sir John is the one that had actually killed their oldest brother, Marcus. And he wanted to kill Quinn McFarlane. And the rest of them, Robert too, the Laird. Because, he blames them for his misfortunes when they had ended up going to the king, years earlier because of, his deceit and his lies, and the king took all of his lands away. So he ends up getting attached with their neighboring clan, the Murrays, and married the Murray's daughter right before he died. And because actually the acting Laird at that moment, trying to, take over and basically ruin the McFarlanes. So through all of this, honestly, Quinn falls for her and she falls for him. They fall in love. But also realize that, there's a lot of history. There's a lot of things that he doesn't know. She doesn't really have family to go back to. She does have her friends. But she didn't know if she should stay. And of course, Irene McCaskill at this point had already talking to, him about her as well, told him that he had a new path that he had to stay on, that, the weight of his responsibilities to his clan, she knows about them and she understands them, but that there'd be someone coming to help him. And little did he realize until he got to know Darcy, it was Darcy that she was sending to his path. And so, he believed that, this was all destiny type of thing. Well, Sir John got a word, or, they had their own feelers out to find out what he was doing. Well, they heard that he was coming at them, and they were going to go through this pass area to start a battle with McFarlane's. So because it was their secret guides listening in, they were prepared. They took off to meet him and get there before he did. So they ride hard, and that leaves, Darcy and the Laird's wife, Rebecca, and the rest of the villagers there. Why he runs off with most of the army to go and confront this Sir John and to end this for once and for all and be there earlier before he got there. Come to find out, Sir John did that intentionally. He let little things slip, so just in case ears heard it, that they thought that was really the plan. It wasn't. Why Quinn and the Laird and all of these army, all of the warriors for them are gone, or most of the warriors. Here comes Sir John. The drums are beating, warning villagers to get to the castle, that the army's invading, because Sir John came around from the other side and was aiming to hit the castle and take the castle while no one was there to protect it. Well, everybody's running, Darcy's included, and right before she gets there, that's when Owen the blacksmith is yelling for little William that, came for her when that flood happened. He couldn't find her. He couldn't find him. And so she tells him, go, he's got other children, get to the castle, I'll find him. So she's running to the village, which is almost now empty, and sees William with his kittens, trying to protect his kittens. And so, of course, the army's already coming through this village. So she's trying to hide. And they're between these two little barrels. And she says, hey, if it comes to it, you need to run as fast as you can and get to that castle. Well, warriors see something. And they know. She knows. There's no way that, both of them can survive. But at least maybe William can. So she gets up and she goes, I'm here. I'm here. So she basically tries to get the warriors back to where that little boy is hiding. And as soon as it is, he takes off running. And when the warrior whips around and realizes it's just a kid, he doesn't even bother with them. Here comes Sir John and sees, who do we have here? And then he sees a ring around her throat, the one that Quinn had gave her, showing how much he adored her and how much he loved her. And it happened to be his oldest brother's ring that was killed by Sir John. Well, Sir John recognizes that ring. He goes, you must be Quinn's new woman. He goes, you brought us the biggest prize ever. So he steals her. Well, Quinn and Robert don't realize at this point yet that, the battle and what's coming, they're not there. And so as soon as they hit that rise, they should be seeing from miles away this Clan Murray and Sir John coming at them. There's nobody. Nothing. Nobody. And they're sitting there going, that can't be. We should be able to at least see them by now. And as they're sitting there going, something isn't right. And of course, Quinn gets this eerie sensation, like he knows something is wrong. And he was like, oh my God, we've been duped. And he's like, back to the castle. And so him and his brother, Robert the Laird, are jumping on their horses and running, hauling ass back to the castle because they've been duped. So they're telling their warriors, ride like the devil's on your tail and get there. And so they get there a lot quicker than what Sir John was already thinking. But Sir John had already disappeared with Darcy and a few handful of his, most trusted people. So he's taken off trying to steal Darcy away and get her to murder.